What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Michigan Football Network. Now, today it is Tuesday, not Wednesday, but that is because Wednesday is Christmas Eve. And not only did I not want to do the show on Christmas Eve, I assume no one would want to watch the show on Christmas Eve. And also, why not take the day off if you can? So, with that being said, that's about all the good news we have for the rest of this podcast because I don't know about you, James, but I am not feeling very good right now as a Lions fan. Which we will get to at the end of the show because I'd like to start us off with our college football just because I don't necessarily want to get irritated within the first minute here. Um, so we're going to start the show off with some Michigan football talk because the head coach search is somewhat heating up. Um, Obviously, Kenny Dillingham is out of the race as he got extended over at Arizona State, which we all kind of thought would happen. Obviously, it was one of those things where his comments made it sound like he might be open to the idea, but James made the point, last week that, well, that might just be a tactic to get more money, which he ended up being right because Dillingham did re sign with Arizona State. So he is gone, which is unfortunate. But we have added some new names to the list. We have Jeff Brom from Louisville, and he has been a pretty hot name in the coaching search. A lot of Florida people wanted Brom, and you know, in Florida, obviously, and then Penn State was another one that his name was connected to at the beginning of this hiring cycle. So obviously, he didn't end up in those two spots, but Brom does seem like a decent candidate for the job. It's not anything I'm necessarily that excited about, though, frankly, just simply because it's like we are hiring a guy who was pretty good at Purdue, pretty good at Louisville, but not amazing. It's not like a Kurt Signetti situation, where he's completely turning them around and making them a powerhouse. Now, that doesn't mean that, coming here, he can't build a powerhouse. That just kind of means that it doesn't get you too excited, essentially. But with that being said, another name that has been thrown around, which I feel like we've been talking about since kind of the beginning of this conversation, Jesse Minter, formerly of Michigan, won the national championship here. He is over in LA with Harbaugh right now. Now, unfortunately, he has essentially shot that down. It sounds like, within his circles, he's kind of made it clear he's not willing to accept the head coach job at Michigan simply because there's a lot of rumors that he could be in a head coach search next year, this upcoming cycle. And if he doesn't get hired, he will likely get hired the next cycle simply because the Chargers are playing really, really well right now. And that's kind of just how that goes. I mean, when you're a coach on a team who's playing really well, when especially because part of the reason they're playing so well is because of you. I mean, it's no coincidence that when he was added, they started playing a lot better. Yet you start to get a lot of hype when it comes to the head coach job. So that makes sense as well that he wouldn't be too interested for those reasons, especially because I mean, at this point, um, I don't know if Michigan's really that hot of a job. I know nobody's necessarily going to say no to it, but if you're a guy who has those uh, openings or possibilities, you'd probably just rather wait it out at this point than go to Michigan. And then another one that has been brought up is Kyle Whittingham from Utah. He's had a pretty solid career over in Utah. He is stepping down as the head coach, though. Kind of a weird situation. Didn't get fired. Just decided after the season he was done in Utah, but he's not done coaching. So there's been a lot of talk about him potentially, being the guy. Which another thing, not can't get that excited about it. I mean, he has 177 wins at Utah, which obviously he's built, stability there. But still, one of those things that's like, okay, how excited really should we be about this guy simply because it's not a big flashy thing? Does that mean it's a bad hire? No, I do not want to say that. I just am saying it's not, so, you can't get too excited about it right now, sitting here today. Maybe in a year or two from now, we can say, wow, that was a great hire, underrated hire. We didn't see it coming, which we hope is the case if we do end up hiring them. But Just really not a lot to get excited about right now as Michigan fans because, we all kind of knew coming into this we were put in a bad position with Sharon Moore's situation being the timing specifically because, there's really not many guys available anymore. So that's kind of the update when it comes to the Michigan head coach search. James, you got anything to add on that before we move on?
No, the only thing is like all the candidates that are pretty much being brought up right now are beyond under the radar and unexciting, as you mentioned.
Hmm.
At this point in time, just for my 2 cents, I almost would just stick with Biff at this point for just one season and see if we can go get the cream of the crop next year. Because anyone we hire in at this point, in my opinion, is going to be probably a 2 or 3 year hire at least. You got to give them a chance to get their
Hmm.
system and blah blah blah. And I think just 1 year of Biff and then seeing who we can pull next year with the whole offseason and whatnot. Also, with Michigan, you looking into and having an investigation into their athletics program and all that hopefully will be cleared up by next year. So I feel like this upcoming season might just be a wash kind of and just to get things right, and then next
Hmm.
year will be the first year with the new regime, hopefully a new AD and stuff like that.
Yeah, and see, I agree to an extent because I've said it on the show many times. I wouldn't be upset if Biff Poggi was the guy. The only real issue that I have with it is the way that college football is nowadays, which we all know. We've talked about it many times. If you're a college football fan, I would assume you know at this point that it's just kind of broken. The system is broken, and essentially that means players can kind of leave whenever they want, and as long as the transfer window is open, they can go. So my only issue with that is like I would assume Michigan would lose a lot of recruits, not because of Biff Poggi, but because you're kind of like you just said, signaling like, all right, this is kind of a wash, and we'll restart next year. Now, a lot of the kids might love Biff and might stay just because he's there. But again, it's one of those things that you risk or you run that risk of losing a lot of those recruits because of that reason. So, I mean, I wouldn't hate it, but it's, like I said, you just run that risk. So,
Oh
don't
yeah,
disagree,
absolutely.
but.
Yeah, there's absolutely that risk. I just unfortunately accept that risk just because, I mean, between the ongoing investigation,
Mhm.
the fact that we fired, I mean, I get obviously why we didn't do it sooner, but we fired Sharon Moore so late into the cycle. It
Mhm.
was, signing days already come and gone. I just, the whole timeline is sloppy, and in my opinion, if you don't kind of have that wash year, you're just scrambling and hoping for the best, and then you might tie yourself into 2 or 3 years of a new coach that might not work
Mhm.
out, and you only hired him because you were in a pinch, and it's kind of like, just nip it in the bud, have that one bad year, and if you lose recruits, unfortunately, because you probably will, um, you lose recruits, maybe you can get them back the following season or something, because as you mentioned, as long as the window's open, you can come and go as you please pretty much now.
Yeah, and the only thing too with that on top of that I will say, not that I'm disagreeing here, is that like you said with any new coach, you're probably going to lose recruits anyway because they came here for a specific reason, a specific scheme or whatever the case, and now that's not here. So, and also you don't want to hire a guy just because. Like you don't want to hire the best of what's available. You want to hire the best of the best when it comes to Michigan football. So, I definitely don't disagree with you there. Before we completely move on from Michigan, though, there's two things I wanted to talk about. First thing, Sharon Moore. There has been a couple more things that have come out recently about Sharon Moore and the situation at Michigan. Which it's nothing huge. It's just kind of funny and kind of epitomizes what Michigan was like under him. So apparently he was getting into it with a lot of coaches throughout the season. A lot of issues were going on, behind the scenes. Apparently, it sounds like most people kind of knew about this situation. Maybe they didn't know the exact he's having sex with a staffer, but they knew something was going on with the guy. He was just not right in his head. Apparently, he got into it once with Wink Martindale specifically over a recruit where Wink, and a couple other guys met to talk about this recruit and like how to recruit him or whatever the case may be. And Sharon Moore felt very, very he was very upset because he felt left out of the situation and essentially called them all in a meeting and just ripped him a new one about it. And apparently, the meeting ended with Sharon Moore in tears, screaming about how you guys don't know the pressure of what it is to be a head coach, and you guys don't know what it takes. And essentially told Wink Martindale, no, literally the word for word in this article was he told Wink Martindale, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. So just like insane shit, man. And the fact that like, look, okay. I was one of those guys, and we both were throughout Michigan season, where it was like, all right, man, we're just okay, but our
Yeah.
talent, we have way more talent than like what we're seeing, and da 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 da. It makes sense now. Like if you hear about all this shit, it's like he wasn't just having a relationship with the staffer. He was doing things that were completely out of bounds of the sport of football, like just wasting time on things that didn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Just completely pouring himself into all the wrong things. So the fact that we were 9-3 or whatever the case, what 9-3 at this point, right? Am I wrong or 10?
No, there's no way we won 10 games. I don't even know off the top of my
No,
head.
I'm pretty sure it was 9-3 or 9-4 um, at the end of the
Looking it
season.
up, 9-3.
So okay, 9-3. So the point is that the fact that we were still 9-3 with all this shit going on
Astonishing.
is kind of nuts because most teams, if you saw all of that going on while you had a true freshman quarterback starting, while you're, kind of retooling a team who recently won a natty, they still went 9-3. Like, if we can get a good coach, we might be going places, man. Like that's the one good thing that I can say about this whole situation. If we can finally get the right guy, we might actually do something with it. Because we have the talent, we have a lot of good players, and we're consistently still recruiting well. So this is a big, big turning point for Michigan for the next 5 to 10 years, I would say, to who they hire this upcoming cycle and how they go about that. So, but before we move on to the last thing, is there anything you wanted to discuss on the Sharon Moore situation?
No, that most of that is news to me. The only part that I have heard before is a lot of staff and or players kind of knew they were having some sort of relationship. I did not know about him trying to I don't want to say overmind because he is the head coach, but telling Wink he doesn't know what he's doing. Wink's been doing this for like 20 years. Um, he's been there, done that.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one in the coaching room, besides maybe Biff, because he's just been around forever between different organizations and whatnot that do know what they are doing. Whether to what degree, obviously, we'll see. But you don't have that long in the business and that many jobs and that many schools offering you positions when you get let go of your prior position if you don't know anything. So it's almost more concerning to me that he wasn't let go sooner because even before all of this behind the scenes stuff, we've sat here and talked about should we bring him back just from a coaching standpoint, just
Mm-hmm.
because 9-3 is not good enough for Michigan. And now it comes out there's all this the only way I can describe it is childish antics that you get worked up that your defensive coordinator is trying to recruit defensive players and um like when he got emotional after the Ohio State game when he won the interim when he took over for Harbaugh, I was defending him because a lot of people were commenting how he was like crying during his victory speech. And I'm like, oh no, that's just emotion and whatnot. It seems that he's just a super emotional guy no matter what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh, okay. um, it sucks because I have a lot of pride in the Michigan program, and it is quite the stain that he left behind, unfortunately. But I hate to say it this way because I normally don't let other programs and teams off the hook this quick. But you got to do what you got to do, and you can only kind of look forward and move on, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. And with that being said, we will move on to our next point, which is the Michigan Texas game. And we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about this. I just wanted to cover a few points here, simply because we do have some guys opting out. Derek Moore, Jay Sean Barham, and oh, shoot, who is the other player? Um, Offensive lineman also opted out. Um, I probably couldn't pronounce his name anyway. I remember it was hard. It was hard for me to pronounce.
I'm
But
looking it up now.
with that being said, we have three guys who are most likely, I would say, key players for Michigan opting out of the Texas game.
Giovanni El Haddadi? I
Okay,
probably
so
butchered that, but
wasn't that hard, I guess. I think it was harder in my head from what I
Giovanni for
can
sure. I
remember.
got that part down.
Yeah, that's not too hard. But with
But yeah.
that being said, we are missing some key guys going into this Texas game. So I already didn't think it was going to be that good of a game personally because Texas was kind of on a roll. And they're pissed, man, that they didn't make the playoffs. So I feel like Texas is going to come out and try to put it on us. And I would be surprised if they don't. Honestly, I think it's going to be kind of an ugly loss. Um, the only thing I can say is maybe Biff can come in there and inject some life into those guys and make them and get them to play for him, and that might be a difference maker. Still don't think we win the game, but that might make it close. But I don't think this is going to be a lot of fun to watch. So that's really all we got on it. Because I just don't want to spend too much time talking about a essentially meaningless game at this point. So.
Yeah.
With that being said, though, we will now move on to the Detroit Lions because this is kind of, you know, the show mostly talks about the Lions, and let's be real, that's kind of where we're at. But right now, the Lions are in the worst spot they've been in since 2022. We are currently sitting at 8-7 after a absolutely brutal, brutal loss. And look, man, I I've said it on the show many times. I'm not for the curses. I'm not for that shit. But I'm not gonna lie, that was the epitome of the same old Lions. That game that we just watched against the Steelers was literally exactly the same thing we saw in like 2016 or 2013 or name a fucking year in the last decade that Matthew Stafford was the starting quarterback of the Detroit Lions, and that's what it looked like every time. It's insane, bro. We had. Are you ready to hear our fucking rushing stats, bro? We
Oh,
had
I know, but all the people.
15 rushing yards as a fucking team. 15. 15. Jameer Gibbs. Guess how many rushing yards Jameer Gibbs had, folks? Oh, let's see. Two. Two
Yeah,
rushing
2 on 7.
yards on 7 carries.
Yeah.
David Montgomery had 14 rushes on 4 carries. But Jared Goff, 364 yards, 3 touchdowns on 54 attempts. If that don't sound like the 2011 Detroit Lions to you, I don't know what does. Because that, damn it, sounds exactly like the shit I used to watch.
Oh,
Exactly
100%.
same thing. And on top
That
of
was
that, the defense was atrocious. Atrocious. Specifically in the run game. Dude, we got out. Oh my God. I can't even. This makes me want to throw up looking at this
you looking at the
statistic.
rushing yards for the Pittsburgh?
Yes, we got
Yeah.
outrushed.
When you say this makes me want to throw up, I'm like, yeah, you're looking at the rushing yards, aren't
It's
you?
bro, we got outrushed by 215 yards. We got 230 to 15. And I don't know if you guys remember, but they had 3 40-yard touchdown runs. Okay? And 2 of them were when the Lions seemed like they were going to come back. I'm not going to lie to you. There was that moment in the game, I think it was third quarter, where we scored that touchdown to cut it to like 5. Might have been early fourth quarter. But either way, we cut it to like 4 or 5. And I was sitting there like, dude, if this is like the Giants game where we pull it out at the end, I'm not going to be happy, but at least I'll be like, all right, we might be okay. Then Kenneth Gainwell busted out a 45-yard touchdown rush like 3 plays later, and I turned the TV off. I stopped watching the game.
You
Genuinely,
missed a hell of an ending.
no, no, but here's the thing. I didn't completely stop watching the game. I just turned the
Okay.
TV off and then was like about 5 minutes later was like, well, I feel like I have to keep watching. So I kept watching and then as you said, Jared Goff
Okay.
kind of put on a show in the fourth quarter. And it seemed like we were coming back. But yet again, we had another touchdown run from the Steelers that just kind of took it out of possibility. And then we scored again, and it was like, oh, okay, we might be all right. We might have a chance. And then, as we all know,
Another one.
and then, as we all know, they did it again. And we'll talk about the ending of the game here in a second. But before we do that, my keys of this game coming in were no turnovers, limit their pass rush. I wasn't too worried about their defense. And I don't understand how our offense was so bad because the Steelers have the 28th total defense, 27th pass defense, and 19th running defense before this game. They're probably up to like 18, 19 and 12th at this point because of how bad the frickin' Lions played, at least running the ball
Just say
offensively.
we destroyed them
Um,
in the passing game, but
yeah,
obviously they destroyed us equally in the run game. So
right. And so with that being said, I personally I was more let down by our offense in that first half, I would say,
okay,
because it just seemed like, dude, our defense was not terrible in that first half, and
correct.
it wasn't great. Don't get me wrong, especially the last play that sucked ass, but. We were doing all right, I felt like, and it seemed like as long as our offense, or if our offense was able to do a little bit better and be the Lions' offense that they were in the second half, we probably won this game, honestly, and we probably win by 10 points. But I do think that last play of the first half really swung momentum. I mean, it seemed like after that our whole team just fell off, which is weird. It was like the offense started playing better and the defense just took a shit. Like they were just demoralized after that play, and specifically the run defense just was not great. And look, I hate to say I told you so, okay? To all the Lions fans out there, I hate to say I told you so, especially when it's like this. I got two things. Aaron Rodgers is not cooked, as we all saw. Second thing, this was a trap game. And I said that coming into this game because the way that the Steelers play, like they play the brand of football that I think the Lions played the last 2 years with that real physical, like smash mouth kind of football where this year the Lions are not very good against that, which is very weird. We get out physical that seems every single week. We get our ass kicked in the trenches. And look, I'm a guy that I don't think Jared Goff is elite personally. I still don't know if I would say he is truly elite, but he's definitely getting up there for me because of what he is doing right now. Like, I mean, okay, look, let's be real, man.
You do you.
The Steelers defense sucks. Okay, let's
Yep.
just be real here. 28th defense total, 27th in pass. They cut Darius Slay because he was not good and they're already not good. So I mean, that just kind of shows how bad that they are defensively. Now, does that mean that and I also think a lot of people are overblowing the offensive line if I'm being real with you. Okay? Like I think the offensive line in the run game is the biggest difference for us this year versus last year. Pass protection, I don't think they're that much worse if you want me to be completely honest with you. Yeah, they're a little bit worse. Like he gets pressured a little bit more often, but I guarantee you if you look up the pressure rate and the sack rate this year from last year, it's going to be worse, but it's not going to be like 10% difference. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be a couple percent because you lose Frank Ragnow and Kevin Zeitler, there's gonna be a drop off. However, I think that losing those guys hurt us more in the run game than anything. So I say that to say that we still have Jamison Williams, we still have Amon Ra, we still have Jameer Gibbs, and let's be real with ourselves right now. Jared Goff is a very good quarterback, but in his best games, passing yards wise this season, Jameer Gibbs has had like 5 or more receptions in every one of those games. So lots of checkdowns are happening. And I mean, just this last game, he had 10 catches for 66 yards. So I'm not hating on Goff. I'm just saying, let's be realistic here. Like, yes, he's been looking good the last, few games, but there's also been a few games this year that he didn't look that good. So I do think that's, the way I look at it is I would say he's a top 12, you could even say top 10 quarterback. In just talent, man, just talent purposes. And I don't think that's a dig on him at all personally. I just think that there are guys that I think you would take over him right now. I mean, how many guys where do you put him?
In my opinion, he's top five easy. I
Who's
understand what you mean in terms of like athletic ability, um, because obviously he's a statue. There's zero denying that. But in terms of just getting the job done, because he doesn't throw the hardest ball, he doesn't throw the tightest spiral, but most of the time, obviously not this week, even though it wasn't his fault, 9 times out of 10, he just gets the job done. He's a winner. And no, quarterback wins is not a stat, but he's not the reason we're losing. To
No,
me, he
not at
kind
all.
of, as you mentioned prior, he reminds me a shit ton, although different styles, of Matthew Stafford here. I feel like I go online and I see him getting a ton of blame when I don't think the quarterback's to blame. Stafford was never the problem in Detroit and proved it when he's elite everywhere. I should say everywhere else. Elite with the Rams, won the Super Bowl the first year with them. But I was a big Stafford defender, and I had lots of people saying like he's the problem. We'll never win with him at quarterback. And this past 2 or 3 weeks, I've been seeing a lot of the same things with Goff. I've seen a lot of people say Goff couldn't, win the Super Bowl with the Rams. He couldn't even bring us to the Super Bowl. And well, I mean, those are facts, but I feel like it's not because of him. Like we lost this game on Sunday. He had 350 yards and 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. We didn't lose because of him. But like on the record, it does go as an L. But there's not too many people I would put over him right now. Like if you're asking me who has better like arm talent, I can see why you would say he might be 12, 15, something like that. But in terms of production, reading the defense, taking the checkdowns, just taking what the defense gives you and moving the chains, I think he's top. I'd say 5 to be conservative. I think he might even be top 3.
See, I personally, I think that's crazy. I just do not see that at all because, like, if you put any quarterback in the Lions offense, they're gonna do well. I mean, dude, I think a lot of people are like undervaluing the offense that we have and the weapons that we have. Like, we have Amon-Ra St. Brown, a guy who is a three-time All-Pro. We have Jamison Williams, a multiple Pro Bowler, who everybody says is the fastest receiver in the NFL. We have Sam Laporta, top 3 tight end. We have Jahmyr Gibbs, a top 2 running back. Matthew Stafford never had that, ever. Ever. Like, if
And
you put,
Alvin,
that's one guy. That's one guy.
Tate,
I mean, compared, not, Golden Tate is not as good as Amon-Ra or Jameson Williams, if we're being honest. And Jared Goff has both of them at the same time. Like, we had 32-year-old Golden Tate. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Tate's pretty good here.
he
Now I'm
was
not gonna put him on
good.
the same level as like JMO, but
Right. He's
I'll
good,
concede
of
that.
course. But I'm saying, like, if you look at the O line, the running backs, the tight ends, the wide receivers, Matthew Stafford never had anything close.
He
Ever.
did. To be fair, we got half of that, not half, but we got a good chunk of that offense because of Stafford's trade. Like
So,
we,
yeah,
so
right. So what? But my point is that that doesn't matter. Like the talent that is on the field compared to what other teams have. If you put Joe Burrow, if you put Patrick Mahomes, if you put Lamar Jackson, if you put Josh Allen, I'd even say Dak Prescott. If you put, let's think, Justin Herbert, Jaden Daniels, I would even say, and I know he's been really injured this year, but the dude has got talent for days. Um, let's see, and this is just off the top of my head. There's, I'm sure,
if you
guys that
say
I'm.
Shadur Sanders, I swear to God,
Okay, no, you don't have to worry about that
I
one,
will
brother.
walk off.
No, definitely, definitely not. Oh, Stafford, who we're just talking about. Stafford is probably the best
This year,
quarterback in the league this
yeah,
year.
this is.
Um,
I don't know where Stafford came from this year. Like I said, I've always been a fan of his. He was my profile picture for 5 years, unchanged on Twitter, and he's playing the best ball he has at the oldest age he's been. Obviously, I don't get it. I just
I
don't.
think he's always been this good. I think he just has Devontae Adams and Puka Nakua and a good offensive line now. I mean, think about it, dude. Like the last few years, and I mean, dude, he was a freaking 75 overall in Madden like 2 years ago because the Rams just didn't play that
It
well.
was?
Yeah, dude, it was
I
gross.
haven't
He was
played Madden,
rated.
and whenever I played in your Twitter league that we did, however many
Oh
years ago
shit.
that was the last time I played Madden.
Yeah, that okay. So a while ago.
It's
See,
been
and
at least 6 years.
So Stafford though was rated really low because their O line was terrible that year. They didn't really have many weapons. Then they went and got Puka. They got Devontae Adams. They have a run game. You see my point? It's like I'm not saying that like any. I don't think any quarterback can go on a team that sucks and make them awesome. That's not realistic. But my point is that like Drake May's another one. Let's see.
Yeah, he's been real nice.
Trevor Lawrence, you could have a conversation about, I think, based on this year. And that's a stretch. I will say the Trevor Lawrence one is a stretch. But that
One
puts.
thing,
Go ahead.
one thing I'll comment about Trevor Lawrence, because I've always been a Trevor Lawrence fan, is they got him. Oh my God, spacing on Colorado, number 2 pick. Travis Hunter. They got
Oh,
him
yeah.
Travis Hunter. He had Brian Thomas Jr., who I know who's having a very underwhelming year this year, but a really good year last year. So if he can come back to form, they have him. They gave him ETN. So like, if you surround a almost like kind of maybe this goes back to your point, but if you kind of circle around to supplying any quarterback with enough talent around him, they'll get the job done. I
Yeah,
mean,
but Travis Hunter hasn't played in like 6 weeks. I mean, Brian Thomas has been, like you said, underperforming. Really, they got Jacoby Myers, and that seems to have made a huge difference over there. But yeah, kind of to that point, they need weapons, but the Jaguars' offense has nowhere near the same weapons the Lions do.
oh
And
no,
that's
not
my
compared to the
point.
Lions. No.
And that's my point that it's like, yeah, Jared Goff threw for 360 yards and 3 touchdowns, but he also threw it 10 times to his freaking running back. Like, we have players that we can just go, Jared Goff, all you got to do is throw a 5 yard pass and he'll get you 30 because he's going to make somebody miss. And now,
Oh, absolutely.
my point with that is I still think Goff is a very good to great quarterback. And with every name I just mentioned, that would put him around 10th. And I think that's valid. Now, and I also think you could say he could be 7th. I think there's an argument there. I just don't see top 5. I think there is a definitive top 5 quarterbacks right now that if you. I don't think you're taking him over Josh Allen. You're not taking him over Lamar Jackson. Even though Lamar hasn't had a great year this year, you're just not doing that. You're not taking him over Drake May, like we just talked about, Stafford. You're not taking him over, I would probably say Justin Herbert.
I would
Um,
take him over Stafford just because of the age factor.
no,
Like, if you mean
that's
this
but then
season
you
in a
could
bubble, I'll
no,
take Stafford. But
no, that's not fair to that's not fair though because then you could say I would take Jaden Daniels because he's 21 years old. I would take you know what I'm saying? There's like 10 more guys that I would add to that list just because they're 22,
I'd
23.
take
So
off of
like
Daniels at this point.
I would not at all. And
Long
I
injury
think about
history.
it. Eh, think about
If
it
he
though.
was
Like
healthy, I would. But
yeah, but like talent wise and contract wise, I think that one's a no brainer. I think if they
any
offered,
rookie contract,
yeah,
contract
exactly,
wise,
exactly. So it's like overarching point is, I think Goff is a very good quarterback that we can win with, but I also think that he's getting a little bit of undeserved flack, but sometimes he gets a little bit of undeserved props as well. Because I mean, dude, yeah, he had 360 yards, but look where we were at. We had to throw the ball fucking 60 times. It's like if you don't have 360 yards, what are we doing? You know what I'm saying? Like Matthew Stafford would do that every other week when he played for the Lions. So, and obviously that's a different time and teams threw it a lot more and it was a different defense and things like that. But
say it's actually a good talk to have this week because, as you mentioned, and now it was something if you didn't mention, I was going to mention that looked like the 2011 Lions. We had an insane passing game,
mhm.
no run game, and no defense. It looked a lot, and we lost the game on a rule that, not to get too far in advance, but we lost the game on a rule that not many people knew, including myself, was
Mhm.
even a rule. So it kind of reminded me of the Calvin Johnson versus Chicago Bears catch, not a catch game.
And that's the exact point that I'm making here is that it feels like we're back in that time because think about it, man. We were like, man, we just have to win out. We're not too worried about the Steelers. The Vikings already beat us, but they're up in the air. It's really that Bears game. Like all Lions fans were saying that for the last 3 weeks, and then we just dropped this game to the Steelers. Which I mean, look, a couple weeks ago we dropped that game to the Giants. I know we won. Like, I know we won, but we lost. Let's be real, bro. We lost that game.
I
Okay?
understand what you mean, yes.
Like, the scoreboard said we won, but that was an L, in my opinion. Like, after that game, I did not feel good at all.
That was the worst I felt after a win in my lifetime. Legit.
Yeah. And it's because we just didn't deserve it, and we barely won to beat a team that was fucking had 2 wins at the time, and they probably still do at this point,
They I believe still do.
which would make a
They
lot
do.
of
They're 2 and
sense.
13.
Right. So that was like it felt like a moral loss. I know we had a real victory, but it was a moral loss. So with that being said, though, we're in this weird spot as Lions fans where we can still make the playoffs technically, but it's very, very out of the realm of possibility simply because the Packers do have to drop their next 2 games. Jordan Love, though, is not trending downwards, as far as I understand, for playing this upcoming week. There's still a chance that he could play, but with his concussion, we're going to kind of see. We'll wait and see what happens. It's still early in the week, only being Tuesday, so those injury designations really don't come out until obviously Thursday or Friday. So we'll see how that goes, but I could see them losing this week to the Ravens. It's really just the next game that they have. I'm spacing on who they play, but I just know it's not a team
After
that
the
I'm.
Ravens, they play at Minnesota.
Okay, yeah, so that makes sense. It's a team I don't really think that the Packers will lose to. So even if they lose this week without Jordan Love, there's still a real high chance that they win the next game. So I'm basically living life as if the Lions are missing the playoffs because that's kind of where we're at right now. Which, before we get too far ahead, just to kind of wrap up the Steelers game, overall, the defense was just terrible. Just terrible in that second half. We could not stop the run. We couldn't stop the pass. Aaron Rodgers looked like 2017 Aaron Rodgers in terms of the way that he took Lions fans' hearts and ripped it out of their freaking sternum and crushed it in front of their eyes because
Especially right
that's just
before
what we do.
halftime.
Yeah, dude. And that's the thing, too. Did you see after the game? He was like, yeah, man, got a lot of good memories in this building. I remember a year or 10 years ago, I threw that. You guys remember that shit? Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, fuck you, man. Like, you got to go on there talking shit. Like, that's
It's
crazy.
it's one of those things where I cannot stand Aaron Rodgers being, a Packer, being as arrogant as he is, but at the same time, like what he's saying isn't false. So I
It's
can't
all facts.
I can't really be too mad at him. I'm like, man, you're an asshole for bringing up all your accomplishments.
Like, fuck you for being good at stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just like, I mean, it's true, but fuck you anyways.
Right. It's like, when you got it's like you got me on the ground already, bro. Why you got to kick me?
Exactly.
Like,
Yes.
what the hell?
Yeah.
But
Just like
yeah,
old
so
days.
literally that's it felt like you were watching Rogers like relive his Packers days, just being like you just said, just like the old days, man. I remember this feeling. He's like, I ain't too old yet, baby. But with that being said, obviously the game ended in an insane way because I dude, I'm not gonna lie. Once we got down to like the 10-yard line or whatever, the 13, where we had like 15 seconds left, I was in my heart of hearts like, man, we're about to pull this out. I felt it. I was like, we're gonna win this game. It's gonna be insane. Like, we're gonna somehow keep our playoff hopes alive, and then we're gonna win the next two, and that's gonna put us in the playoffs. Well, that didn't happen, safe to say, and it did happen, and then it didn't happen, and then it happened, and then it didn't
Twice. Yeah.
happen again. Um, so it was one of those weird, like we scored. I remember, dude, I was standing up. Me and my girlfriend were both standing up watching the last couple plays when Amon Ra scored. I literally just was jumping up and down, screaming, yelling, and then the flag came, and I was like, oh, never mind, it's coming back. And then I said, but we should be okay. The clock stops and all that. And then the next play proceeded to happen, which was just absolute buffoonery, insanity. Threw it to Amon Ra. And look, man, a lot of Lions fans want to be upset. Oh, he scored. Da 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 da. I don't think they should. They should have called that play dead because Amon Ra was like he was standing in one spot for a solid second or two.
He got pushed backwards 3
Yeah.
yards.
So like they should have called forward progress and called it good, but I mean, thankfully they didn't. But at the end of the day, it didn't matter because there was the
Yeah.
OPI on Amon Ra, which
That
I
was
think
an
is
OPI.
it's a very weird rule. I mean, I do feel like it's one of those things, right? I get it. I do get it because if the offense has an offensive pass interference with 0 seconds left, and then they get another play because of that, that's kind of rewarding the offense for having a penalty. You know what I mean? So it makes sense. The rule itself does make sense, but it's like if they accept that penalty, there should be an untimed down that's moved back.
Yes.
That's my opinion. But at the same time, I get why they have it this way because it does kind of seem like you're like, well, if you think about it, you could just have an offensive pass interference or a holding penalty on the last play of the game if you know you're not going to score. You know what I mean? Like there, it could get weird.
In that
So,
sense, though, the defense. Let's say you try to do like a Hail Mary. It's not going to happen. You can tell the ball is going to, let's just say, fall at 10, so the receiver just shoves the corner. Flag, OPI, defense could just decline it and say game over.
sure. But what if he catches it though? Like he shoves the shit out of the guy and then somehow he or someone else catches it or it gets tipped. I mean, crazy shit's happened
Then accept
before.
the penalty, 10 yards and another down, in my opinion. Like,
Right,
I
and
know that's.
I get what you're saying, but it really does give the offense even more like it's already an offensive game, right? We all
Oh, yeah,
know that. All the
absolutely.
rules go towards the offense. So I think having that rule, it doesn't make it fair by any means for the defense, but it makes it a little more fair where it's like, look, we're not just going to give you another play because you fucked up. Like, however, I
Then
do think
decline
there's
the
a better.
penalty.
Yeah, but
Touchdown Lions.
yeah, but do you see my point though? It's like
I do. I do.
you have to have some sort of like fairness within the game, and that's just one of the ways because although it might not make a lot of sense, you know, off the first time hearing the rule, it's like once you think about it and go, okay, I guess if you think about it like you are really rewarding the offense for that, it does make sense, and that's really
Yeah,
all.
I agree with it to an extent, and I definitely have done, I don't quite want to say a 180, but and at the time, then and there in the heat of the moment, I was so beyond pissed.
Hmm.
I was saying it was rigged, ref games, blah, blah, blah. And then once I had some time to sit on it, because I'm just like, it was an OPI. Like, I've seen some people say St. Brown didn't push off. He absolutely did. There's really no denying that besides just being biased.
Yeah.
He absolutely pushed off. I think the Tesla one was a little ticky tacky, but at the same time, um, they took away a touchdown from Pittsburgh on a pick play as well earlier in the game. So I mean they've at least been consistent with that. And to me, all I ask for referees or officials during the game is consistency. I hate when they let one player get away with hand fighting and another not. So
Hmm.
they were at least consistent with that. And then yeah, like I just mentioned, I kind of disagree with the rule because I understand why you can't reward the offense with another play when they committed a foul. But I'm like, in that sense, I would just decline the penalty in theory, and then the game's over. But since they did rule it a touchdown, so I get it. I just don't like it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Kind of like the
And
catch rule. Like it
yeah.
shouldn't be this difficult, but at the same time, the game really shouldn't have even come down to that.
Yeah. And
Like,
as much as it sucks as a Lions fan, like this exact thing happening is why that rule exists. Like literally exactly what happened is why they have to make it that way. So it's like it sucks because we're Lions fans and we lost because of it, but at the same time it's like there's not much we can do. There's really not
yeah.
an argument to be had, I guess, at this point.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
yeah. If I'm being honest, if this happened in like a Baltimore Buffalo game, I would not give a single shit about it.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
um, so yeah, but it's one of those things, and I wanted to touch on also because it's because I'm gonna call myself out a little bit on this because as I mentioned, I'm like in the heat of the moment, I was pissed, just like so many others were, obviously. But looking back on it, I don't quite understand the people that are still pissed like today. Like it's unfortunate, it sucks as you mentioned, but there were so many times where we could have taken the points. And I know that would have adjusted the game. But if we didn't go for it on that first fourth down from like I want to say it was like the 10 or 12, then at the end of the game we would have kicked a field goal from the 10, assuming everything else played out the same. And then we would only need a field goal on that last drive, not a touchdown to win the game, and then that play never even happens. So, and if we didn't have Gainwell somehow magically putting his hand under a ball on a Hail Mary play and then no one touches him, if we didn't give up three 40-yard touchdowns, So I'm like, yeah, we can be mad at the refs and stuff, but what about all the chances we had to stop them on defense? What about all the
Right.
chances we had on offense that we didn't get the job done? What if we had more than 20 rushing yards? Like, just
Mm.
what if? It's normally not
Yeah.
even a big ask. Like, I feel like 20 rushing yards should happen per drive. Like,
Yeah.
it's not a big ask.
We just couldn't
Especially
get it
with
done.
TJ Watt out,
Mm-hmm.
because that's a whole nother thing. I know, I saw some people, and sometimes I'm this guy, so like I said, I'll hold myself accountable. Um, Injuries play a factor, and the Lions are obviously beat up. Let's not pretend Pittsburgh was healthy. Like, we had Hutch, they didn't have TJ Watt, which at
Mm-hmm.
least, honorable mention for one of the small bright sides of the game. Hutch had 2 sacks,
Mm-hmm.
so I mean, besides him and Goff, I don't think too many people did much. I guess a tip of the cap to Frisker, who had 4 catches and 40 yards, his first game as a Lion. But there were not very many bright spots outside of that, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I mean, I would say Tesla might be another one just because
Yeah,
of his
fair
touchdown
enough.
catch. But also, before we move on, I just wanted to mention, you touched on TJ Watt not being available, and that's a big thing, I think, too, just to kind of show this Lions team is different than it has been the last few years. And I think we talked about this many times this year, but they just get beat up, man, and it's super frustrating. So, with that being said, going into our next, our talking point, I couldn't figure out if I want to say talking point or topic there, I guess. But
Topic point.
going into our next topic, um, you know, when it comes to the Lions versus the Vikings, right? We already lost to them once this year in a game that we just got beat up. I want to go in this game and assert our will physically. Um, this needs to be like, look, man, I don't give a shit if we win or lose. To be honest with you, with how the season's
Oh,
going right
correct.
now,
Yeah.
I mean, I want to win. To be real with you, but
Eh,
I would rather win and whoop their ass physically than win on some bullshit at the end of the game, like against the Giants or like we almost just did against the Steelers. We need to go in this game and set the tone because right now, as a Lions fan, I'm not feeling too optimistic about our future, if I'm being honest with you. It's like our team has lost its life. That grit shit that we've been talking about for the last 3, 4 years, we don't got it no more. It's gone. I don't know what happened, but look, this shirt says ready to roll. We are not. We are not ready to roll at all. And that's something that, with the Dan Campbell Lions, you never thought you would be saying. You never thought, oh man, we're getting our ass kicked physically. We can't run the ball. Like we mentioned before, it looks like the 2011 Lions out there. What the fuck is going on? Like going into this Vikings game, we need to prove a point. Not just to the fans, not just to the NFL, not just to the Vikings, but to ourselves. And I'm talking as if I were a player here. The Lions need to prove to themselves that they can do it because right now they're in a slump. Like, and I don't know what the issue is because we can talk about the offensive line and that's why we're getting beat up physically. We drafted a fucking defensive tackle in the first round and we are getting whooped on physically. Why is that happening? It's
Well,
not, something's off.
to be fair, he's been known as a run stopper, so that means other teams won't be able to run the ball on. Oh wait, hang on. My bad,
Yeah,
Buck.
so anyway, that it's
Hey,
like
you know I wanted Gian Campbell.
look, and that's not even my point necessarily. It's not even saying that we drafted the wrong kid. My point is, what is the
O-line.
issue? We have no. My point
No,
is,
I would have gone O-line first round and or Campbell.
sure, but my point is that we just are losing our identity. I don't think it matters the players. That's not my point is the players are not the issue. I don't think. Something happened this offseason where we just got soft. That's kind of where we're at. So, going into this Minnesota game, we need to assert our dominance, really prove ourselves as a physical football team. With that being said, we need to run the damn ball. I do want to see Ratledge at center a little bit. I want to see Frazier
Hmm.
on the field a little bit more because at this point right now, and I've tweeted it a couple times last week during the game, if we're not going to see Ratledge at center at all this year, then he ain't playing center next year. I'm sorry, but there's no fucking way. Like, you're not going to say, yeah, well, he just needs an off season to learn how to play the position and then he'll be fine. No, he's had an entire off season this year of learning how to play the position. Then he's had a whole season of playing right guard in the NFL. And look, I know the positions are different, but they're different in very small ways that you can translate over. And if we're to the point where we're gonna play fucking Cologne or Aguakun over him at center, I don't know what we're doing. Like, that tells me he's not the future at center. So I really want to see him play center. I want to see more Frazier. I want to see more Tesla usage. Defensively, I want to see some turnovers because we're playing up against a backup quarterback. JJ McCarthy has already been ruled out, so this should be a good game for us defensively. Because I mean, obviously the Vikings. I hate to say this, but the Vikings' backup quarterbacks have low key fucked us up the last few years. Every time we play a backup quarterback, like Nick Mullins had 366 yards on us, and the other guy, Josh, uh, damn it, why can't I remember his last name? Uh, oh, damn it, Josh something. I don't know why I
I'm
cannot
spacing
remember
on
his
it as
last
well,
name,
but I know who you're
but
referring to.
he went from there to the Cardinals and a couple other places and kind of bounced around. But he played really well there too, and he did us kind of dirty. However, we have already seen the backup that they have now, and did not look that great. So I expect the defense to do something this week. We need
Dobbs.
our pass rush. We need some sacks. We need some turnovers. Like, genuinely, this game needs to be dominant, or I am genuinely worried about our future, not just as a football team, but with Dan Campbell as our head coach, with, Kelvin Shepard as our defensive coordinator, because something has happened where we lost that grit, that thing that made us who we are. We just don't have it this year. So we really need to see that against the Vikings this week, in my opinion.
Yeah, I did have to look it up, but it's Josh Dobbs. That's the
Dobbs, okay.
other quarterback. And I agree with you in terms. I do feel like we have lost our identity, and I don't. Throughout the season, I've been saying it's the O line. I've been saying it's Zeitler and Ragnow, but maybe I undersold the importance of Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson. We replaced both coordinators. I feel like, as you mentioned, we got softer. I don't quite want to say we're soft, but softer for sure. On both lines, even though we drafted for both lines. Um, and I'm hoping that fixes itself over time because like I feel like we just need to replace those guys, and obviously it's way easier said than done to replace an All-Pro and a Pro Bowler. But I 100% agree with you. I was begging for it this last game against Pittsburgh. If Ratledge is the future at center, put him at center. Glasgow, unfortunately, your time's up, man. Like, with all due respect, thank you for all your years of being great because you were great for years. Time has come for you. Time comes for all athletes unless you're Tom Brady or maybe even Aaron Rodgers for whatever fucking reason. But time comes for everyone else though. Darius Slay. But it's we're not and haven't been. We weren't on Sunday and we haven't been all year dominant in the trenches like we used to be. And like I said, maybe it takes a little bit more time. I know we tried to address that with Williams in the first, Ratledge in the second, Frazier later. But if our future O line is going to be like Decker, Mahogany, Ratledge, Frazier, Sewell, I almost want to treat, and I know we're not technically out of the playoffs, as you mentioned before, but we kind of are.
Hmm.
I don't see, regardless of what we do, I don't see Green Bay losing both of those games. To be honest, I see Green Bay winning both of those games, even with Malik Willis. Um, they were beyond close to beating Chicago, which my God, what an ending that was too. But um, so I would use these last two games this season. Not, I would not say tank because I've seen some people say tank, but use them as building blocks. Get Ratledge reps at center. I know they said St. Brown is questionable with a knee injury. He tweaked something in his knee. Sit him. Play Tesla. Get Tesla extra reps. Get the kids extra reps. And
Hmm.
no, I'm not saying tank or just let them lose. Try your best. Learn, but kind of learn on the job experience. And if we end up winning, we end up winning. If we end up losing, we end up losing. But you can't learn to play the game just in practice, as you mentioned with like Ratledge at center.
Hmm.
Make the play calls, make the protections with the 40,000 fans yelling at you. Like get in game reps, and hopefully that should not catapult, but boost us into next year. So that way, if Ragnow, or I'm sorry, Ragnow, if Ratledge, wrong R, is in at center, then he would be like, okay, like obviously it's been a minute, but he's been there, done that at that point. At least it's something. And I would have started this at Pittsburgh, but I mean, obviously I'm not the one making the call, and I don't know who is. I don't know if that's a Hank Fairley. I don't know if that's a Morton, since he's still an offensive coordinator, which some people, for whatever reason, thinks he's gone off the face of the earth. Campbell took over his play calling. That's all that happened. He's still the offensive coordinator. Or if that's a Campbell call, I don't know. But either way, if he's not deemed the center of the future and he is just going to be, I shouldn't say just, but if he is going to be the right guard, then maybe center then becomes your circled on the newspaper position for the draft. But there's a lot of questions that need to be answered in these last 2 weeks.
Yeah, and kind of piggybacking on that point, if Ratledge is our center, I don't think we need to draft one early next year, offensive
Fully.
lineman really at all, because like you mentioned, it could be Decker, Mahogany, Ratledge, Frazier, Sewell, and I'm fine with that. I think
Me too.
it's really
For
just
now.
another year, right? Another year of getting better and developing and things like that. I think that's a more than good enough offensive line. You might talk about drafting a tackle in the mid rounds because
Yeah.
Decker and things like that. That's a valid, conversation. And I would even say drafting a backup, swing interior lineman, a guy who can play center and guard, would be a good idea for us with how many injuries we see. But with that being said, I do think the Lions win this game by double. I'd say two scores, if not more. I think if they don't, we might have problems because this Lions team better be pissed off after losing against the Steelers like that, man. They better come out and set the fucking tone. And I'm telling you right now, it's Christmas Day, and a lot of players, Penei Sewell is one that has voiced his reasoning of being mad that they're playing on the Christmas, which is valid. I'm not saying it's invalid. Take that shit out on the field, though, brother, because right now we need it. We need to go prove ourselves and kick somebody's damn teeth in the fucking dirt and move on with our lives. So I'm really hoping that we win this game by a lot, personally. But with that being said, there's one more thing. Two more things sort of that I wanted to talk about. And honestly, the Bears clinching could have helped us because they might rest their players in week 18. So if you think about it that way, if we beat the Vikings and if the Packers win, we're kind of going into week 18 like, I mean, the Bears are probably going to rest their guys, so it should be a win. All we really need is the Packers to lose. So we'll see how that goes. But the other thing is David Montgomery is probably going to be gone sooner than later. Unfortunately, I don't know if you saw this or not, James, but he's
I
been
did.
posting on Instagram some cryptic things, I will say, and he's been liking people's posts talking negative about his usage and things like that. So it sounds like David Montgomery is not very happy in Detroit right now, which think about that in itself. Just think about the words that just came out of my freaking mouth, dude. David Montgomery is not happy in Detroit. What the fuck is going on, man? Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Which his usage makes sense and him being unhappy makes sense. But the fact that we've gotten to this point just makes no sense. And I don't think anybody saw it coming. I know, a lot of people said our window closed. I don't think they saw this happening, though. I don't think anybody thought it was going to be like this. And I'm not saying our window is closed, but just kind of a side here to what's going on. So, anything you want to add there before we move on?
Yeah, I wanted to touch on the Montgomery, I guess I would say, situation because I've been saying for weeks I think we should use him more. I I've been on Twitter for months saying I think we should use him more. And like I said, I'm not trying to sweep Gibbs under the rug or say, he's not good or he should lose reps. I just think Montgomery has earned more reps. Gibbs had 7 carries for 2 yards. Montgomery, I can't remember his exact yardage or carries off the top of my head, but I do remember he averaged 3.5 a carry, which is a hell of a lot more than Gibbs did on Sunday. And this is now 5 out of the last 6 games. Montgomery has been better than Gibbs in terms of yards per carry. So I know you mentioned it could be a formation thing or a usage thing, or either way, it's happening. And I don't understand why someone who has been outperforming the person that's getting more reps in front of them consistently for the last 6 weeks is getting significantly less reps. And even if you want to keep it like 60-40 Gibbs, I get it. But right now I saw a graphic that was 82-18 Gibbs.
Hmm.
Can we at least make it 60-40? Like, do we not like I don't want to be sitting here talking about the past, but like he had that huge run against the Chargers that was a 75-yard touchdown. He's made plays like fairly consistently. So I don't know why we're just going away from him. We were so pleased with him before that we gave him an extension when he still had 2 years left.
Hmm. The
So all
Lions
of a
kind of,
sudden,
I think that kind of goes to where we were talking about with their who they their identity. You know, when the Lions are better when Montgomery is getting more touches.
yep.
So you know, I also want to say, kind of to play devil's advocate here, a lot of the same people that are calling for Monty to get more touches were calling for him to get less touches last year. So like we also kind of have to be at a place to understand that where like everybody last year or 2 years ago is like Monty shouldn't be getting so many touches because Jahmyr Gibbs is the best back in football and when Monty's on the field, da 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 da. Now we're to the other side. And I will say I do think we're putting a little bit more emphasis on the running backs, whereas we just talked about the offensive line this year, as we know, has been the problem on top of the play calling. Because I mean, look, I know we talk about how we don't miss Ben Johnson a lot and all these things, but the run game, in my opinion, is where we miss him the most because it shows with even just the drop in Monty's usage, in my opinion, that Ben Johnson really did a lot for our run game. So that's just kind of my 2 cents.
Yeah, and the backup running back in Chicago, I can't think of his name right now, but he's having a career year too. So
Hmm.
Ben Johnson over there is using both backs and look, they're having success. Um, I just it honestly it pisses me off because I remember Montgomery. I think it was his first year here. If not, it was his second. He shared a story that he was just pumping gas, and a lady walked up to him and gave him a hug, saying she's just so glad he's here. And he's like, "Oh man, no one ever did this for me in Chicago." Like, he's like, "I love how passionate Lions fans are." And now he's unhappy to be here, and it's like, can we please stop running good players out of town? And don't get me wrong, at least Holmes and Campbell don't have a habit of this. This is
Hmm.
the potential first, but can we make it where it's not the first? Like, obviously, it's completely different subjects and completely different owners and general managers and blah blah blah. But between whatever happens with Montgomery and then Scooble, and we need to keep our players in town. And I will say, for the most part, Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have excelled at that. We extended Goff, we extended St. Brown, we extended JMO, we extended Hutch, we extended Kirby. So I'm like, we've been a decent job of that, obviously, but like I just don't understand why we're not using Montgomery. I don't know if there's something behind the scenes. I don't know if I don't know, but he's been a solid player, and like I know 3.5 yards per carry is nothing to write home about, but when Gibbs I believe was at point 0.2 or point 0.3, I don't know why Montgomery's not the one getting more touches. Like play the hot hand. I've said this. I sat here and said the same shit last week. So
Hmm.
I would be furious, especially as you mentioned losing our identity and kind of getting a little softer. I know Gibbs is not just a speed back. Like I know obviously that's his area of expertise, but he can put a shoulder down. But that's like Montgomery's forte. Like we to piggyback on our last conversation of we're getting softer. It's like we're using. I don't want to call Gibbs a softer player, but he's not the power back, and it
Hmm.
just it bothers me because I'm like I it pains me that I feel like a handful of people outside just watching on their TV know better than some of the people, not all, but some of the people that are in that building who see them game in and game out and can't figure it out for some reason.
Hmm.
I wish I had an answer for that.
Yeah, and very good points. And with that being said, we will now move on to our game of the week or games of the week. With touching on last week's games real quick, mine were LA at Seattle and Green Bay at Chicago, and I'm not going to pat myself on the back for those because those are super obvious. I think everybody kind of saw that those were going to be the games of the week, and they definitely were. I mean, LA versus Seattle was probably one of the best games of the entire year. And then Chicago, Green Bay obviously was a very good game as well with a crazy ending. Didn't end the way that Lions fans wanted it to, but nonetheless a very wild football game.
Yeah, I
And
enjoyed
then,
the sorry.
no, go ahead.
I enjoyed the ending of that game very much. Like I did want Green Bay to win because of the playoff implications and all that,
Hmm.
but I cannot. It still kind of warms my heart a little bit to see the Packers blow a 10-point lead with 2 minutes to go. So as much as they did it to us with the Hail Mary and all that kind of stuff, even though it hurt the Lions, it was still kind of nice to see at least in that small window of time.
Yeah, for sure. And then with that being said, do you want to cover your last week games real quick?
Yeah, my last week game was Green Bay Chicago. We piggybacked on that, obviously with all the implications. And then I also had Jacksonville at Denver, which Denver was on a yeah, thank you. I'm like Denver was on a hot streak coming in, but Jacksonville pulled it out, I believe, by 10, if I'm not mistaken. Where the heck did it go?
14. 30,
It
40.
was by four. Oh, okay, it was by 14.
Yeah,
I'm
30,
like, I
40,
know it was
20.
double digits, but Jacksonville took care of business. Um, they're just two great teams. Obviously, Denver's now 12-3. Jacksonville or I'm sorry, not 14, 11-4. And as I mentioned, Trevor Lawrence is I don't quite want to say figuring it out, but he seems to be figuring it out. I know he's been around for a while. I know he's on his second contract, but whether it's the addition of Jacoby Myers or Tim Patrick, former Lion, he had at least one catch. Um, Giving it more to Travis Etienne, Etienne's kind of filling. I don't quite want to say the Gibbs role, but that receiving back, Gibbs, Kamara. So many teams doing it nowadays, and that was just an entertaining game, and I thought it was going to be a close one that people wouldn't necessarily circle prior to the game, but I'm glad not to try to be full of myself, but I'm glad I gave it attention.
Yeah, for sure. And then with that being said, this week's games of the week for me, I have Houston at the Chargers, which is going to be a really good game for the obvious reasons for football reasons, but also it has a lot of playoff implications because Houston and LA, excuse me, Houston is sitting at 10-5 and LA is sitting at 11-4. So if Houston wins this game, they could jump over them in the playoff standings, clinch a playoff spot as well at the same time. And then you also have the Colts in the same division as Houston, and they are playing the Jaguars this week, who are in the same division as Houston as well. So kind of an interdivisional two different games here that kind of impact each other, which is kind of cool. Which both games should be good as well, because Jacksonville, Indianapolis is another interdivisional rivalry that should be pretty good. And Jacksonville is sitting at 11-4, and Indianapolis is sitting at 8-7. So the Colts are kind of in the same boat as the Lions right now. It's a must-win game, and they're playing a really good team who's coming off a hot streak, like you just mentioned. So both of these games should be really good football games, on top of having playoff implications that kind of go hand in hand with each other. So, like, if Houston wins and then the Colts win, that could shake up a lot on the AFC playoffs race. So that's why I picked those as my games of the week, and they should just be really, really good games anyway.
Yeah, and this week I just went for the matchups I think are just going to be the overall best games. They don't necessarily have too much playoff implications on them. But I have the Bears at the 49ers. This is just two 11-4 teams. They're both already clinched at least a wild card, so there's not really much in terms of there's potential seeding and whatnot, but to me this is just going to be hopefully a good football game, especially with how banged up the 49ers are. I do want to give a tip of the cap to them because they kind of remind me of the Lions last year, where
Hmm.
they don't have Bosa, they don't have Fred Warner, they've went a decent amount of time, not just a game or two, but they went a decent amount of time without their starting quarterback,
Yep.
and they held it down. They're 11-4 despite all their injuries, and a small part of me wants to root for them just because uh, I kind of admire that they can still get it done with all those injuries, but I can't get over Vildor and Ayuk and all that NFC title game. But they are playing the Bears, so that helps me root for them a lot more. And the other game I have is Philly and Buffalo for kind of the same reasons. Philly is 10-5, Buffalo is 11-4, and I just think it's two top five teams in their respective conference. I think Philly's top five in the NFC, and I think the Bills are top five in the AFC. And I wouldn't technically call it a Super Bowl potential preview, but there's a chance. I'm like it's an option, and we'll just see because I have enjoyed. Granted, Philly is on a two-game winning streak, but they had a three-game losing streak prior to that. So I am enjoying the Eagles looking human because for a short time there they just looked unbeatable. So those two games this week, I think, although they don't have the most wild playoff implications and whatnot, and that tends to be what people are looking for this time of year, I just think these are just going to be in a vacuum, just two good football games.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely agree there. As we close the NFL season and the college football season, obviously the games just ramp up. So every week this year in the NFL, the games are just going to get a little bit better as we go on and mean a little bit more. But with that being said, that's going to do it for this one. As always, we appreciate you guys for watching. You can find me at JSoSweet. You can find James at Gullet_James. If you want anything new, you want this ready to roll t-shirt, I actually got this on Fanatics. The link will be in the description. You can find both of us at MIFB Network and MichiganFootballNetwork.com. And once again, we appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week. Merry Christmas to
Merry
you.
Christmas.